between friendship and rivalry. What's really happening with Jimin and Jungkook? The silence is deafening, the distance undeniable, and the questions relentless. What is truly happening between Jimin and Jungkook? Once seen as inseparable forces within BTS, their recent lack of visible interaction has created a storm of speculation that no fanbase can ignore. Could this be the natural ebb and flow of two global icons carving their own paths? Or is there something far more complicated brewing beneath the surface? Observers cannot help but notice the subtle shifts. Where once there were candid smiles, shared laughter, and effortless camaraderie, there is now a puzzling gap. The absence of their joint appearances has left a vacuum filled with whispers of rivalry. But is it rivalry in the pure sense, or a byproduct of fame, pressure, and the brutal expectations placed upon them by millions of eyes worldwide? The narrative of friendship versus rivalry is not new in the entertainment world. History has shown countless examples of partners, colleagues, and even lifelong friends torn apart by success, ambition, or misinterpretation. Yet when it comes to Jimin and Jungkook, the stakes feel different. Their relationship has never been just about companionship. It has been symbolic. To many, their bond represents unity, resilience, and the very foundation of BTS's human story. The possibility that such a connection might fracture is not just shocking, it is unthinkable. Still, fans are not imagining the changes. The moments where they used to stand side by side now feel strategically distanced. The once frequent gestures of support now appear restrained. Every performance, every public outing, every minor interaction is dissected frame by frame, with interpretations ranging from innocent coincidence to calculated detachment. The truth may lie somewhere in between, yet the perception of distance is powerful enough to spark global conversations. The heart of this debate is the simple but unsettling question: is this distance personal or professional? Jimin has pursued his own path with a refined artistic identity, showcasing vulnerability and passion through his music and performances. Jungkook, on the other hand, has leaned into his role as the Golden Magne, expanding his solo career with unmatched intensity. Both trajectories demand focus, discipline, and individuality. Could it be that their current distance is not a rupture, but rather the inevitable result of personal growth colliding with public expectation? However, the human element cannot be dismissed. Fame magnifies everything. Small disagreements, fleeting silences, or even routine separations can morph into global controversies when magnified through the lens of fandom. A single absence is transformed into a narrative of betrayal, and a missed glance becomes proof of animosity. In truth, no one outside their closest circle can fully understand the private dynamics at play. Yet the public continues to ask, if they were once inseparable, why does it now feel like a silent rivalry is taking shape? Emotions run high because Jimin and Jungkook are not just performers, they are symbols. Fans invest not only in their music but also in their humanity, their stories, and the authenticity of their bond. The idea of rivalry shakes that foundation. For many, it feels almost like betrayal, not by the idols themselves, but by the fragile illusion that friendships in the world of fame are unbreakable. This emotional reaction drives the endless debates, the speculative theories, and the desperate search for answers. Yet perhaps the real story is far less scandalous than the rumors suggest. Rivalry does not always equate to animosity. Sometimes, it is the natural fuel that pushes individuals to excel. Two artists as gifted as Jimin and Jungkook may find themselves constantly compared, but comparison is not inherently destructive. On the contrary, it can sharpen their artistry, deepen their resolve, and ultimately strengthen the legacy they are building. What the world interprets as distance may, in fact, be the unseen tension of two extraordinary individuals striving to define themselves beyond the shadows of each other. The irony is striking. The very closeness that once brought fans comfort now magnifies their absence. Because the bar was set so high, any shift feels monumental. The public expects eternal sameness, yet life rarely permits it. Friendships evolve, relationships transform, and even bonds forged under the harsh spotlight of global fame are not immune to change. The pressing question remains, are Jimin and Jungkook quietly drifting apart, or are they simply maturing into different versions of themselves? As the debate rages on, fans are left to wrestle with their own interpretations. Some see rivalry as an inevitable shadow cast by success. Others believe the bond is unshakable, merely hidden from view by circumstance. Both possibilities carry weight, and both reflect the emotional complexity of following idols whose lives are lived under constant scrutiny. Ultimately, the truth may never be fully revealed, and perhaps that is what sustains the mystery. The line between friendship and rivalry is razor thin, and for Jimin and Jungkook, that line has become the most captivating storyline in the world of K-pop today. What remains undeniable is the impact they continue to wield, together or apart. Their silence speaks as loudly as their voices once did, forcing the world to ask questions that may never have definitive answers. And so, the stage is set for reflection. As a reader, as a fan, as an observer of this unfolding narrative, what do you believe? Is this truly a sign of rivalry, a fracture in one of the most admired friendships in modern pop culture? Or is it simply the unavoidable evolution of two artists stepping into their own identities? The answers lie not in speculation but in perspective. It began as a whisper, an uneasy question echoing across fan communities. Why do Jimin and Jungkook no longer appear as close as before? What was once a visible friendship, celebrated and cherished by millions, now appears clouded by absence and silence. For a group that built its identity on authenticity and brotherhood, the change is not just noticeable, it is shocking. Fans are left asking, has their bond shifted from friendship into rivalry, or is there a deeper, hidden reason behind their growing distance? The imagery of Jimin and Jungkook standing side by side has always been powerful. They were never just two members of a global supergroup. They symbolized trust, balance, and unity. But today, the moments of warmth feel scarce, and the contrasts are impossible to ignore. Their performances often feel marked by separation, their interactions brief or cautious. Is this the inevitable evolution of two individuals under immense pressure, or does it hint at an unspoken fracture? One cannot underestimate the role of fame in this narrative. The spotlight magnifies everything. A missed glance becomes a statement, an absence transforms into a rumor. Every gesture is scrutinized, replayed, and dissected by millions who search for hidden meaning. Jimin, pursuing a delicate artistry rooted in emotion, has carved a path that emphasizes depth and introspection. Jungkook, meanwhile, has embraced a bold, ambitious trajectory, building his image as a powerhouse performer. These diverging creative journeys may simply demand space, but to the public, space looks suspiciously like rivalry. The complexity lies in perception. Rivalry does not always mean hostility, but to fans, the optics are enough to spark emotional upheaval. The image of friendship once served as an anchor, a reminder that fame had not corrupted genuine bonds. To now see that anchor question destabilizes the very narrative fans have long believed in. The silence feels louder than words, the distance sharper than confrontation. And yet, could this simply be the natural rhythm of personal growth, misread through the lens of obsession? History within the entertainment world offers countless examples of close companions forced apart by success. The paradox of fame is cruel. The higher the climb, the greater the strain on private bonds. With Jimin and Jungkook, the pressure is even greater. Their identities are not just tied to their individual artistry, but also to the emotional investment of millions. Their friendship was never private. It belonged to the world. The slightest shift therefore feels monumental, even if it is, in reality, nothing more than life unfolding. Still, fans cannot ignore the pattern. Where once there were frequent public interactions, now there are gaps. Where once there was ease, now there is formality. Theories multiply. Are they protecting their individuality, shielding their bond from intrusion, or navigating underlying tension? Every interpretation fuels further debate, leaving truth buried beneath layers of speculation. Yet the impact remains undeniable. The relationship between Jimin and Jungkook has become one of the most discussed mysteries in K-pop today. Perhaps what unsettles fans most is the ambiguity. Friendship and rivalry can coexist, blending into a complicated bond where admiration and competition are inseparable. It is possible that Jimin and Jungkook are not drifting apart, but simply learning to coexist as equals rather than companions. In this light, rivalry does not destroy, it refines, pushing both toward higher levels of artistry. What fans perceive as coldness may instead be discipline, the necessary distance that allows growth without constant comparison. And yet, the emotional weight cannot be dismissed. Fans long for certainty, for reassurance that the bond they admired has not been broken. But certainty rarely exists in the lives of those under relentless scrutiny. Every public figure is entitled to private evolution, but when that figure is part of BTS, evolution becomes global news. The expectation of unchanging closeness is perhaps unfair, but it is also inevitable. Fans built an image of Jimin and Jungkook as inseparable, and breaking that illusion feels like a personal betrayal. Still, the story is not written in stone. Bonds shift, but they rarely vanish without trace. Whether this is distance, rivalry, or quiet growth, the future remains unwritten. Their history of support and shared triumphs cannot be erased by a season of separation. The true measure of their relationship may not be found in the present silence but in how they eventually navigate it. So the question endures. Is this the unraveling of a friendship, or the quiet recalibration of two artists under impossible pressure? Is rivalry tearing them apart, or shaping them into stronger individuals destined to reunite with renewed respect? The answers remain elusive, and perhaps they always will. For now, the world watches in silence, waiting for the smallest sign, a glance, a smile, a moment that will either confirm the fears or dispel them. Until then, the mystery remains one of the most gripping narratives in the world of music. Between friendship and rivalry, what is really happening with Jimin and Jungkook? The intensity of speculation surrounding Jimin and Jungkook has reached a level where silence itself has become a message. In a world where every gesture is magnified, their lack of visible interaction has created one of the most fascinating enigmas in modern pop culture. Fans dissect timelines, compare old footage with recent appearances, and search for evidence that could explain the growing distance. Yet the truth continues to slip through, leaving only questions that cut deeper with each passing day. At the center of the storm lies a paradox. The very closeness that once defined them is now the source of tension. For years, Jimin and Jungkook embodied the brotherhood that fans idealized. They were proof that fame did not erase humanity, that friendship could survive even under the brightest spotlight. Now, as their bond appears less certain, that proof feels fragile. The possibility of rivalry, or even quiet estrangement, strikes at the core of what fans believed was unshakable. But can friendship and rivalry coexist without destroying each other? History suggests they can. Rivalry does not always manifest as conflict. Sometimes, it is the very fuel that drives greatness. Perhaps Jimin and Jungkook are caught in this duality, brothers in spirit, but also silent